Today we want to go through all the steps necessary to tattoo your litter of puppies. So we'll start off by identifying all the different supplies that you should have on hand before you get started. It's usually good to have some extra paper towels around. You'll want some gloves just because the tattoo ink can cause quite a few stains, so you'll want that. Also, be sure to have some rubbing alcohol. You can just purchase a lot of this stuff at Walmart. Some cotton balls to apply the alcohol. You'll also want to make sure that you have all of the numbers on hand for your tattoo pliers. I've just purchased this little pill organizer just to help me keep all of my numbers organized so I can easily find them. You'll also want tattoo ink. Highly recommend the John Deere green. It shows up much better than the black ink that comes with a lot of the tattoo kits. So go with the green ink. You'll also want to have a toothbrush on hand, a supply of Q-tips, and then we've just used a random plastic lid that we use to put the ink on, and then just have that supply ready to quickly rub in to the puppy's ears. And then you should also have your litter inspection form with you. I like to have this printed out and ready to go because it will have all of the breed book numbers for each of the puppies in your litter, and you'll want to refer back to that as you're tattooing each puppy to ensure that they're getting the right tattoo in their ear. And then the only other thing I ever have with me is just some other piece of paper, paper towels, whatever it is, just so you can double check the number with your pliers before you ever put it in the puppy's ear, because obviously the tattoos are permanent, so you'll want to make sure that you got the numbers in the correct order and test it out before you actually tattoo the puppy. So the first thing that we're going to do is put on some gloves. And again, you should be able to purchase these at any sort of discount store or order them online. And the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we don't infect the puppy's ears. So we're going to dab some rubbing alcohol on the right ear of each puppy. You know, in the German system, we always tattoo the right ear. We don't actually have any puppies right now to demonstrate this on, so we're going to be using just a cardboard puppy ear to demonstrate today. So all you need to do is get a little bit of alcohol on the ear. And this is a two-person job generally, so you'll have the tattooer with everything available, and then you will have a helper that can hold the puppies for you. So you can easily just have your holder holding the puppy, you flip open the ear, and just wet the entire area where we might be tattooing. Now when you have the actual puppy's ear, you'll notice that there's quite a bit of hair growing around the edges, but there should be a fairly blank spot in the middle where they haven't really started to grow hair yet, a rather bare area, and that's where we'll try to tattoo it. So just make sure you get the alcohol really rubbed in good there. And then the next thing you want to do is make sure that that alcohol completely dries before you tattoo the puppy. If you tattoo them while the alcohol is still wet, it's going to burn quite a bit more. So we want to try to make sure we ensure the comfort of the puppy by letting that dry. While that's drying is a perfect time to start preparing our pliers to tattoo the correct number. You should have already received all of your tattoo numbers from your breed warden. Obviously, if you haven't, don't start this process. So we can see here that our first puppy would be number 15517. So I'll go ahead and grab these numbers. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's very important to keep everything very sterile. So one thing I do is every time I have tattooed a litter, I immediately boil all the numbers to disinfect them. And then when I put them back in the case, they're clean. You'll want to make sure that you do something similar. If you had not already previously cleaned your numbers, you'll need to boil and disinfect them before you get started with the tattooing as well. Alright, all these tattoo pliers work fairly similarly. Once the numbers are in place, close the gap, screw everything together. And remember, I said it is very important to test your numbers. We really don't want to mess this up. This is a permanent tattoo on the puppy. So I'm just going to press it into this extra piece of paper I had here just to ensure that we do get that 15517, which I would always double check it. It is the correct number for this first puppy. So now that we have the right number, we need to make sure that we have our tattoo ink available. So here's where that plastic lid comes in, is that you just need to squirt a little bit of the ink, and obviously we're not using much today in a demo, so I probably even used too much there. Put a little bit on the lid. And then make sure you've got your one Q-tip ready, and then your toothbrush as well. So at this point, you would have your helper grab the puppy. And usually what I would do is I would go through and I would put alcohol on each of the 8 puppies in the litter in this case, and then go through them in order. Try to have the puppies already arranged so you know how to identify them, and if you can, even have them crated and ready to go in the right order. So usually by the time I've put alcohol on all the puppies and prepared the first number, the alcohol is usually dry on the ear. On our cardboard example here, the alcohol is almost dry. We're going to again pretend that this is a real puppy, it would be dry by now. So at this point, it's important to get a healthy amount of tattoo ink on the ear. So you're going to rub that toothbrush in there and spread a lot of ink in the puppy's ear. Again, kind of aim for that bare spot where there's not as much hair. You may have also noticed looking at the ear, you'll start to see some veining, and you're going to try to avoid those veins as you tattoo the puppy. Inevitably, you'll probably nick one of those ear veins at some point in time, and they can bleed a little bit, but we'll do our best to avoid them. So once you get the puppy's ear, your helper should be holding that puppy nicely for you. You're going to go ahead and grab your tattoo pliers. Again, make sure it's the right ear, and you'll want to make sure that you apply the tattoo at the correct angle. So I'm just trying to make sure I have it in that bare spot on the puppy. The important part here is that once you have the tattoo pliers in, you need to squeeze them until they are 100% clamped down. This is somewhat painful for the puppy, so most of them will yelp at this point or scream, but it's important again for your helper to have a very good strong hold on the puppy so they can't move their head, because the more they struggle, the more it will hurt. Once the pliers are open, and sometimes they will be a little sticky in the ear, make sure you get them completely open before you remove the pliers. That will help you avoid any tearing that could occur. And then quickly grab your Q-tip. You can even put a little extra ink on it. And while you're still holding the ear with your left hand, if you're a right hand dominant person, take that Q-tip and rub that ink into the ear. You shouldn't be able to see any of the holes from the tattoo at this point. If you do, continue rubbing ink in until it's completely saturated into each of those pinprick holes. This is a super important part of the job. If you skip this part, the tattoo ink won't necessarily get into each one of those holes. Your tattoo will fade over time, or it won't absorb all that color. So do your best to rub all that in. You can see I have all the holes filled in here. And then at this point, it's usually best to go ahead and fold that puppy's ear over, and that will help control any bleeding that may occur. It'll also help absorb that ink a little better. So your helper can then grab the ear from here, and they can just continue holding that puppy for a minute and holding that ear tightly over to ensure that we're getting a nice, good, strong tattoo there. This is where it's good too to have the extra paper towels. If you did hit a vein and the puppy's ear is bleeding, go ahead and grab a paper towel and wrap that around and just keep the pressure on there. Ears can bleed a lot, but at the same time they usually heal very quickly as well, or the bleeding would stop soon as long as you continue that pressure. So at this point, you should be done with puppy number 1. You would go ahead and release that puppy back out into a pen or the yard, and then you would continue on with the same process through the rest of the litter. The biggest thing is just, again, double check all your numbers, triple check all of your numbers, make sure that everything is going well. You'll have to then change the number for the plier in each puppy. So at this point, it says 156 is next. So I could easily pull out the 5, reach in and grab my number 6 number, close the pliers, and then again, run your test. And this is again where it's nice to have a helper, because as you're doing all of this, your helper can be holding the first puppy's ear and making sure that they're okay. And again, we can see it's 15617, 15617, we're good to go. Once you've gotten through each of the puppies in the litter, it's important to just keep double checking them, make sure that all the bleeding has stopped. And at that point then it's time to go ahead and put everything away. And again, make sure you disinfect all of your numbers right away so that you don't cause any infection in future litters. Hopefully this helps you. If you have any questions about how to tattoo puppies in the litter or any step of the process, please don't hesitate to contact me anytime. Thank you.